You have to hear this, especially if you are a Canadian, whether you're native or non-native. Here now we have some important things happening in our country that we need to be aware of, and we need to take action, whatever that looks like. At least have these discussions with your friends and the people around you, because they are so important that we're doing this here now. So, part of what I want to share with you is the importance of coming together as natives and Canadian settlers, non natives here in this country, and why more than ever we have to sort of drop these lines of separation between us based on the color of our skin and come together with the rights of the land and the rights of humanity. So I'm not typically involving myself in any form of political discussion. So by no means am I a political expert. I am simply somebody who deeply cares about the future of this nation, of this land, and of us as the people of Canada, or Turtle Island, as some refer to it as still here today. So, what I want to share with you and jump right into it is what's happening here now in relation to the past, and what that relates to in our potential future timelines if we do not take action. And it's important that we recognize, not just to look at the problem, but to recognize that there are solutions, and that those solutions involve us as empowered human beings in which we are. Okay? So, for natives, for many of us aware of the history of the original treaties that have been broken over and over again, recognizing that many of these treaties were signed illegitimately, firstly, and after they were signed, were not always honored and followed. And now, where we are here between then and now, and all of the destruction, all of the genocide that's been taking place upon the people of the First Nations of this land, and all of the wrongdoings leading up to this point in time, that we're now reaching this point here in Ontario where they have signed what they're referring to as Bill C5, I believe it is, and it's to recognize that the natives no longer hold any power over this land. So if somebody wants to come and do some work to extract resources, whether it's mining, whether it's forestry, that before in the treaty they had to speak with the caretakers of the land, the natives of this land, in order to be able to take certain actions to do work on the land, to extract resources from the land. And so with this recent bill, what they're doing is taking away that agreement so that it's much looser, much easier, much faster, that an organization could come in with an agreement, especially through the government, and therefore be able to go in and extract resources based on agreements not with the natives of this land. So it is going to another level, and you'll see how much easier it will be for people to extract these resources from the land. So I've seen recently how some people are under the idea that the recent government in place, with Carney being the new prime minister, that there is hope of being a global powerhouse. And all that is happening is that they are further restricting the rights as us as humans, not just natives who want to protect the land, but for us as humans who recognize the importance of our land to sustain us, to support us here on earth. It comes from the land itself and its intricate web of life supporting us as humans, in which we're a part of nature. So we're moving further away from this realization and further towards the idea that we can just take whatever we want from the land without caring for it, and trusting that it will still care for us. And we're seeing more and more the impact that if we don't take care of the land, it comes back to hurt us as humans in relation to the land. So it's a really big moment in time right now where I believe us as non-natives are having to recognize, as well as the natives, that this is not okay, that it's crossing the line once and for all. And therefore, we're having to take action and first recognize that it's not natives versus non-natives, and giving back the land and the rights to the land to the natives isn't taken away from us as Canadian settlers. In fact, it may be helping us as Canadian settlers because it's supporting us in supporting the land and the rights that we have as humans to access the land and to work with the land as stewards, as caretakers of the land. So these basic values, which come from many, many, many years, many moons of living in relation with the land, are so important because they're aligned with the laws of creation. They've helped humanity, they've helped the natives of this land live in harmony with nature for so long in ways that allow us to thrive at greater levels. So it's not taking away our ability to thrive on this land, but in fact the opposite. It's supporting us to thrive at different levels. And the government's in place and many people that want to extract resources and take what they can to benefit themselves will lead us to believe otherwise, will lead us to believe that it's not important and that maybe it's crazy. But if we listen to this wisdom that's within our own hearts and within those that are still living in common sense and still connected to nature, to spirits, understand that there are laws of creation that we're having to learn about, we're having to follow now more than ever, because if we continue in this direction of insanity, of destroying the land and destroying the way of life, then furthermore we end up paying the consequences. We end up paying the price, not just for us, but for future generations even more so. So we are making decisions that are deeply impacting future generations. And again, this is another core value of making decisions as natives to this land, was to understand that it's not just about us, but it's about future generations, and in some cases as many as 7 generations looking into the future. So it is so far advanced in this way of thinking, and we have really deteriorated and devalued this understanding, and it's more about the here and now and the present moments within our generation, with what I want. And it's all about quick fixes, and it's not about the future. So again, we're needing to realign to understand this part of the native values that are so important for us to recognize here and now. So really, if we're settlers of this land, to not feel threatened by what the natives are wanting to stand for, even, with all of the pain and suffering they've endured, that many of them are still here wanting to stand for what is right, not only for the land and not only for their people, but for humanity. Recognizing that we are all family, we're all brothers and sisters, we're all relatives, because we're all in relation to one another. We're all interconnected with each other in this planet. So these are just like common sense core values that we've gotten so far away from. Maybe because we ourselves feel that threat. Maybe we ourselves feel like we're stuck in survival and just wanting to get ahead, or wanting to live out my dreams, or whatever it is. But there are bigger, more important things right now that we're needing to address, and understanding that by addressing these things and coming together and making these changes, that we will experience more of what we desire, more of what we need. And more importantly, the next generation will experience even more of it, especially if we put these seeds into good soil and allow them to grow and flourish, just like we're meant to as humans. So I believe now more than ever, we recognize that the government is not operating honestly. I think it's clear, obviously, for the natives in how the system operates, and now becoming more and more clear for us as Canadian settlers, that generally the system will do whatever it needs to, whatever it wants. It will say whatever we need to hear, and not follow through with what they're saying. So this is common dishonesty and manipulation tactics, lies that natives have had to go through and see, hopefully more and more, that, hey, no matter what they say, they're not following through with their word. And even more so, sometimes they try to manipulate our words. And so these are common tactics on humanity, not just towards the natives, but the natives and their relation with the treaties that have been signed are a really good example for all of us. And it doesn't matter the color of your skin. If you're a human who stands up for the rights of the land or for your family, and it's not necessarily aligned with what they're wanting, then they will find a way to destroy you or discredit you or bribe you and manipulate you, control you. So these are common tactics that many people on our planet have to go through, and natives have had to endure here in Canada. And again, also for the natives to understand, it's not just about the fight for your culture anymore. It's not just a fight for the land as natives to this land, but really for humanity. And if we're able to make this shift right here, right now, then it's going to ripple out to all the nations around us and represent something that this is a moment of peace and harmony that we've been seeking. And we're able to reestablish systems based on the values of creation, which can ripple out to all of these nations around and say, hey, it's over, the destruction has ended, we are now entering into this time of peace together. So we recognize that the voting system may be corrupted. We recognize that the political system itself and the leaders within the system are corrupted. It's been shown here in Canada over the last years, anyone that's been paying attention. The Prime Minister Trudeau, who was in power before, broke many laws but was not addressed, and just somehow found a way to skirt and sneak his way around it. And so again, it's becoming really quite clear, because he was not held accountable, nor was the government in place, then the system itself has become corrupt, not just the people within it. So it's very clear now that the system essentially has to be dismantled. It has to be rebuilt from the ground up in terms of meeting the needs of the land and communities locally, and supporting one another as this network of communities spread across what we now call Canada. And so this is how it used to be. It was much more matriarchal, not the patriarchal systems, which are very masculine and kind of like do what I want, top down, where we need to come from the ground up, recognizing our needs and the importance of taking care of the land, taking care of one another, taking care of ourselves, and this more feminine aspect. So ideally, it would be great to actually be led by the feminine elders of this country who are still in touch with this reality of the physical plane of earth, and also the spiritual understanding of what is happening and what's most important here now and for the future generations. So it's really, really so pivotal right now, because of these new laws coming into place and the government going further and further towards destruction, away from these core values. So now is this pivotal moment where we're having to have these conversations and to recognize, like, what would this actually look like? What would it feel like to shift our systems away from destruction and reestablish systems of peace and harmony and care and equality, these core values that we really need now more than ever. And if we establish these core values and systems based on these values, we could see how everything can change so quickly. And of course, there is an adaptation where we're so used to doing what we want, when we want, and not caring about others. But yet, if we're all living this way, we see that we're hurting one another and being hurt by others and hurting others. And this needs to end because it doesn't create a safe place for us to actually be living in. And we're moving further towards this. You see, in Canada, things have changed so much, whether you're aware of it or not, in terms of peace and harmony amongst ourselves and our community members. That everyone has become more and more lost in this conflict and separated from one another based upon ideas, and losing track of our common sense and core values as humans, recognizing that we all need the same thing and we all desire the same thing. In a sense, we all need to be at peace. We all need to recognize that we are safe and secure within our homes, within our bodies, within our communities. And we desire to express ourselves in this world, to be free to express our unique gifts, to contribute to making this a better world. So in these simple core values that we all have, we can come together, non-natives, Canadian settlers, here together as family once again, to recognize that we share the same heart. And it's time for us to come to understand one another more intellectually, more mentally, to understand the old ways of life and how they support as we integrate new technologies that we've developed over this last cycles, that actually together it could work really well if we base them upon our core values. But if we don't come back to the core values, then we go further towards destruction, integrating new technology based on ideas that are not aligned with life, with creation. And therefore, we completely will lose ourselves in this destruction. Our land will be further destroyed, and to the point where we will lose many animals, many insects, the intricate web of life that has developed for eons here, for thousands of years at least, if not more, can all be destroyed. And what it takes to recover from this destruction, it's hard to say how long it would take. And it's hard to measure the impact that it will have on us as humans. But if you are already feeling this destruction that's taking place within the energy or within yourself, if you feel not good about yourself, about your life, if you feel not good about being a part of your community, or all of these things, it's already showing within you. And it's time that we pay attention what we're feeling. We cannot deny ourselves this anymore, because this is part of who we are. This is part of what shows us how to navigate through life. And so we've gone very far out of harmony with nature, and many of us are struggling with our depression, anxiety, with many forms of mental illness and physical illness now more than ever, as our quality of life and life expectancy here in Canada has actually dropped for the first time, sending off alarms, sending off warnings to all of us that now is the time we need to change, because things have gotten worse and they will continue to get worse faster and faster unless we come to say, hey, it's time to stop. It's time that we come together as family and recognize what's most important. So thank you. Please feel free to share in your comments below how you feel about this, how you feel we should go about this to address the issues now, and the importance of saying to the government that your time is up. It's no longer okay to operate in these ways, and therefore we give back the land to the natives of this land, and form new forms of systems, not governments, but systems of support with love. Aho.